Blog Talk Radio, the world's largest online radio network.
What is up, gamers, geeks, and gadgeters? Welcome to this week's G3 podcast. I'm Matt, and we've got an interesting show for you tonight. You know, we've geeked about video games, comics, movies, and occasionally side boobs, because I know that Adam and Christine always loving their side boobs. Well, tonight we're going to talk about TV with an old friend. Marcel Lapointe, formerly and I guess futurely of Movie Yearbook, is back to discuss his latest podcast, Crazy TV Talk. He's undertaken this in the Vancouver area with Bob Garlick, a well-known social media guru, and both are going to be along tonight to chat with us off the top. And then we're going to get into Borderlands 2, the game that you don't stop seeing commercials about. I swear to God, I see about 20 or 30 of these commercials a day. You know, a lot of people called it the potential game of the year coming in. You saw that in the commercial. They kept touting that. And now that you've had some time to let it sink in and dig in, is it the game of the year? I know that Adam reviewed it for XBoxAddict. We're going to be chatting with him. We're going to be talking to Beau about it. And, you know, whether it deserves that status. And can that status stick around for the rest of the year? Because you guys know it's busy gaming season right now. And there seem to be about 12,000 games a week coming out before the holiday. And then we're going to get into... We're going to close the show talking about the new PS3 model announcement. You know, Beau's our resident techie, so I'm sure he's got a few words on it. We'll close out with the games that we're most looking forward to. So, without further ado, let's get the night started. And I've got returning to G3 after a long time away, taking care of babies and working. You know, you guys know he's a 3-time no-selling author, and his latest book, Brother, a 900-page pictorial of Hulk Hogan's beard over the years. It's gotten up to number 906,505 on the New York Times bestseller list. So, Adam D'Oliva, just when you thought you were out of the woods, staying up with the baby every night, you now got all these game reviews to worry about.
It's definitely the season. It's going to be a challenge, so that should be interesting.
Yeah, it seems like there's something that's coming out like every single week. You know, and it's not just one game. There's like 200 games.
Yeah, and it's all going to be big stuff as well. Yeah.
Well, last week, you know what, we missed out on him because of the OT he was working, but he's back for a week before sinking into the world of overtime again. Seattle's best is not coffee, it's Beau W. Johnson. What's up, Beau?
That is correct. I'm doing great. Been playing some Borderlands, playing a lot of games, been pre-ordering a lot of games, been overdrawing my account. It's been pretty spectacular.
Awesome. And plenty of overdraft fees, because I know that the overdraft fees in the States are crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Guys, I've played the Perfect Strangers theme to start a podcast before, but I have not played the other one before the Perfect Strangers song. Do you guys remember what TV show it was from?
That was Growing Pains.
Yes, Growing Pains is correct.
I don't know. I always think of that Flash game now whenever I hear it.
The Perfect Strangers theme song?
Yes.
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends that know that I was a huge not Growing Pains. Well, I like Growing Pains too, but I was a huge Perfect Strangers fan growing up.
Testing.
And yeah, we can hear you, Marcel. Don't worry.
Yay.
All right. I was a huge Perfect Strangers fan growing up, and all right, I'm going to put you on mute, Marcel. I was a huge Perfect Strangers fan growing up, and it seems like somebody's linking that thing to me every week. It seems like somebody's putting it on my Facebook wall at least once a week, reminding me that, hey, there's that Perfect Strangers game out there. And thank you to the 250 of you that have done it so far, and the 250 yet to come. And thanks to Randall Santia for joining me last week. Last week's show is temporarily offline if you're looking for it due to some technical issues, but we'll see if we can get it fixed up and download it. If you want to chat with us tonight, we've got the phone boards open. You can give us a call anytime at area code 646-649-1332, or you can click on the link, the Skype icon next to the phone number on the Blog Talk Radio page. Follow the directions to log in through Skype and talk to us for free. The G3 podcast is available on Blog Talk Radio, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and iTunes. So, The Office, I don't know if you guys watched The Office, but it premiered tonight for its final season, and I'm not going to spoil a whole lot because it hasn't aired on the West Coast right now, but it kind of sucked. And I don't think it really bodes all that well for the rest of the season, but in any event, between the start of most of the NBC lineup and Glee last week, it looks like the fall TV lineup is kind of off to a flying start. So we're going to talk about what we're looking forward to this fall, and here to discuss some of the happenings this fall, and maybe some old favorites in general, and what they're up to nowadays. We've got Marcel Lapointe and Bob Garlick of the Crazy TV Talk podcast on tonight. I know we've got you on right now, Marcel. How's it going?
Really good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. It's been a little while. You guys know that, for those of you that listen to the G3 podcast regularly, Marcel's been on before. He is the guy behind Movie Yearbook. And I did say formerly, but futurely, because you do have an Indiegogo project right now, and you're interested in bringing it back next year.
Well, I do have the Indiegogo project, but I'm kind of thinking of putting a hold on it, just because I have Crazy TV Talk going right now, and I've kind of challenged myself to blog about all the shows I watch, religiously, and I have a few other things on the go. Like I just did a couple weeks ago, I did a live show called Geeks versus Nerds at Yuck Yucks, which is a geek debate comedy thing, which is a lot of fun, and it looks like there's 2 debates next month on October 9th, and I'm going to be running one of the debates, and I'll be in one of the other debates, most likely if I can get off work. I just started a new job, so we'll see. Hopefully I can make it work. And I've got some other things on the go too, so I might be putting a pause on that for now, and maybe aiming for 2014 or something.
Right. Okay.
I love doing it, and I'd love to be able to actually finish. But right now, I'm really enjoying the Crazy TV Talk, and we have a lot of balls in the air, things that might work out soon, which will be exciting. And I kind of want to play that out and just see what happens.
Yeah, well, you know what? Speaking of balls in the air, you did say that if you donated $15 to the Indiegogo project, that you would allow people to pick a movie. And so I was asking you if you'd go and review some adult films, and you said if it's playing in Vancouver, you'll review it, right?
Well, yeah, because Tinseltown actually played that Chinese 3D thing for a while there, like 3 weeks straight, and they made a sequel to that in like 4D or something, and I'm assuming Tinseltown will play it. Like if it's played in a legit theater, I would go see it and review it. Like some of the stuff I reviewed, there was one movie that was like still images of farm life with interviews over black and white, of like people in the South, and some of the things I reviewed were barely movies. So if it fills a spot and it's playing somewhere, I'll do it.
Awesome. So we will keep that in mind. Maybe we'll get some more information about your Indiegogo project in case you decide to bring it back for next year.
I took the page down for now just because I have so much on the go. I can't possibly see how I can do it in 2013 unless I somehow have enough money to quit my job. But that's not happening. So hopefully, 2014 I can try it again. For now, I want to play out the Crazy TV Talk thing. We got a lot of things coming. I think it'll be like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, good luck, and we'll definitely find out a little bit more about the podcast as we come. I guess we're going to be joined by Bob in a little bit here. So, I was hoping to have you on last week for the premiere, but stuff kind of happens, and we weren't going to have a podcast that night until 2 weeks before, just because everybody's schedule literally fell apart in like a 48-hour span. But you did premiere last week. So for the G3 listeners that are sort of interested in maybe pocketing another podcast for their listening pleasure, because you're always an enjoyable guy to listen to, what is what is Crazy TV Talk?
What is it?
Yeah.
Well, basically, it kind of stemmed from Bob co-hosts the Bunker Project, which I go to almost every 2 weeks, and I've got a little family there, and we have a lot of fun, and we just kind of get drunk and talk about social media, and sometimes I have a one-liner. And Bob and I, in between shows, would always go outside and just rant back and forth about what we're watching and what we think. And I watch a ton of current stuff, which you'll see in the reviews on the website. And Bob more marathons things like a crazy man. And so we figure, and we're both giant geeks, so let's get together and we'll do a season of a show a week, and we'll rant about it. And every now and then maybe we'll have a special, like we were talking about maybe covering Arrested Development when it goes live on Netflix, and doing like a Google Hangout and stuff like that. And hopefully we can, rack up some guests if anybody would love to come on. And, we've got a lot on the go. I think it'll be fun. I will say, though, don't judge us on our pilot episode. The pilot episode is really uneven. I was a bit nervous. We just recorded episode 2 a little bit early because Bob has a vacation for season 2 of Breaking Bad. And that one is really high energy, all over the place, really fun. I think if you're going to judge us, listen to that, give us a go. I think it really sets a good precedent for what we're trying to do. And it's only going to get, crazier because we're both insane.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Nobody's first podcast is always going to be that great. I mean, I'm kind of afraid to go back and listen to the first ever G3 that we did back in February or March. We had one of Christine's friends call in, and he was horrendously drunk, but we let him go for about a half hour, and that was the birth of G3, folks. And look how far we've come in the last 4 months.
Oh, I know. Well, I think about when I first went on the Bunker Project in January, I went on it as a whim to plug Movie Yearbook, and I didn't know how a microphone worked. And if you go back and you listen to that show, it's ridiculous. And then you can kind of see over, the last 7, 8, 9 months, how I've slowly kind of come into my own. I'm okay at talking now, sort of, sometimes. And I'm better at, learning when it's appropriate to cut the room down to the one-liner and knowing when to talk. And I'm much more, I guess, mature. And Crazy TV Talk's going to have the same kind of evolution. Like, the pilot episode, so to say, is a little bit uneven, but right away I think we've kind of come into our own as far as what it's going to be. It's just fast-paced, high energy, and, like you, how long have you been doing this? And it probably took a while to figure out what the show was, right?
Yeah, I think we hit the 20th show about 2 or 3 weeks ago, so we're closing in on the 25th episode right now, and we do it once a week.
It was as soon as I joined the show.
Only 20 was, and who was that? I'm sorry.
As soon as I joined the show, it was awesome.
Oh, I'm not sure who you are. I'm so sorry.
That's Adam.
It's me,
Oh,
Adam.
my God, that's you, Adam? I can't tell on this headset. But, hi, Adam.
Hi.
But, yeah, was I, on the 4th show? What was the deal? Was it brand new at the time?
It was the 2nd or 3rd show that you were on when we were talking about, was it comic book movie adaptations and... Yeah.
It was, I think it was video game movies, but we kind of ended up talking about comic book movies.
That's right, yeah, we segued into that and talked about that for 2 hours.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah, it was good fun, that's for
How
sure.
How long's the show tonight? I'm kind of flying blind, just game for whatever.
Well, it's always 2 hours long. We always go 8 to 10 Pacific time, 11 to 1 Eastern time, so... that's usually the time we've got scheduled. Sometimes we'll go 80 minutes, sometimes we'll go 90 minutes, sometimes we'll go the full 2 hours. I know that there was one episode where I was literally chasing people off the air, being told that I had 10 seconds left to go.
That was the best.
Yeah.
How do I sound right now? This is a brand new headset. I'm totally working it out.
You sound normal. You sound like a
fine.
human voice.
Awesome-o.
Yeah. All right, I think we had Bob on the line, but we might have lost him there. So hopefully we'll get him back. Now, I've got to throw this out there for you guys because I'm a tremendous TV geek, as you could tell. Marcel is as well. How many shows do all of us PVR? Because I've got to say that if I were to go upstairs right now, I wouldn't be surprised to see that I'm PVRing at least, 25 first runs, maybe 10 other shows. I mean, I watch a lot of TV, and obviously I PVR a lot of TV as well.
See, for me, what I have to watch, there's about 20 shows I have to watch. And, one of the big challenges for the website I was doing is I'm going to be writing reviews week to week of all of them, just because I want to see what it's going to look like if I do that. Because, you were talking about The Office. The Office is one of them. I haven't watched it yet. I'm really excited. Greg Daniels is the showrunner again. I'm excited to dive into it, considering last year's awful BS. But, I watch a lot, and I'm going to try my best to actually cover it live.
Yeah, there's. I have to say again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a lot of vintage character moments on the season premiere. But for the most part, I have to say, I wasn't that impressed. So I'm looking more forward to next week, and I've got to say, I'm looking forward to Parks and Recreation because I know that's going to be PVRing while we're podcasting up here.
Oh, the moment I'm off this thing, I'm going to be watching Office and Parks. I'm so excited. It's ridiculous. And Glee. But.
Yeah, Glee as well. I know that. I'm not a Glee watcher, but I know that Laura is. So, and Laura is as well.
How about you, Adam? How many shows?
Quite a bit. I watch a lot of, I'm waiting for Walking Dead, Dexter, Survivor started yesterday. A good amount. I probably watch as much as Matt does, just different stuff.
And what about you, Beau?
I would have to say 30 Rock. I watch a lot of comedies. I watch a lot of animated stuff, like Adult Swim, Squidbillies. A lot of ridiculous stuff. I'm not really that much of a serious show watcher. I think the most serious show that I've tracked is probably Game of Thrones. But it's mandatory. You have to watch Game of Thrones. There's no excuse not to watch Game of Thrones.
I am one of few people that think Game of Thrones is kind of overrated. I'm so sorry.
Well, the thing is that I have the books, and the books can the books are huge like hurdles. There's so many like characters in the books. It can get really big really quick, so it can kind of get confusing. Watching the show is a little easier way to get around it, but it's I don't have like the full investment in the show. It's just the Game of Thrones. I mean, my girlfriend's more into the Game of Thrones than I am. There's just various aspects of it that are pretty awesome, but
I don't dislike it. Like, I think what they did at the end of season 2, there was a lot of really good stuff. But
that might be a spoiler. I haven't gone that far.
Oh, okay. I find the pacing's a bit off. But I mean, look at the books. I read the first book. I tried the second, and I'm the kind of person, I open a book, and the moment I get frustrated, I like throw it out the window. And yeah, I don't know. But I think that's one of the shows Bob and I should consider covering, because it would only take 2 weeks to cover, and everybody's watching.
Yeah, speaking of, sorry guys to cut you off, speaking of Bob, we've now been joined by Bob Garlick, Marcel's partner in crime on Crazy TV Talk. How you doing, Bob?
Hey, pretty good.
Bob, we were just talking about how many shows we've all got PVR'd, and it sounds like all of us, with the exception of Beau, are crazy TV fanatics. So give us an indication of how many TV shows you're currently PVRing right now.
Got 2 terabytes.
All right.
Well, not
Is that the name of the show? 2 terabytes?
Not downloading. I mean, I told them that you more download things and you watch a lot of old shows. You don't watch a lot of first run. They were talking like, what is it that runs now that you PVR, if anything?
Well, I did the first season of Game of Thrones. That was pretty awesome. Great production value. And I'm stuck now watching Breaking Bad, because that's what we're doing every week, and we had like an epic. I had to do a season in 4 days, so that was pretty intense.
Now I haven't seen that, and I've been told to start watching that. Like, that's a really good drama.
Do not do it. You will lose too many hours of your. I mean, it's addictive. I was only supposed to watch 4 seasons. I actually took a day off work to catch up before the show started, and I actually went into the 3rd season because I just couldn't stop. It's that good.
Really?
It is the best thing on TV. As far as like structured storytelling with a beginning, middle, and end, where it just keeps escalating, it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's got a killer podcast that goes with it by the people that are making it. One of the editors puts on a podcast, and then they talk about all the background, so you can watch the whole season, listen to the podcast, and then go back and watch the whole season again, and it's a brand new show because you're looking at on the production value and how they actually did stuff.
And they put the podcasts up the same night they air. So for me, it's a tradition. I watch the new Breaking Bad, and then I log on, I listen to the podcast. Sometimes it's like 2 hours, and it's just great. It's like extra show.
Yeah, it's hugely entertaining too.
That sounds really deep. I would enjoy kind of doing like a podcast, like getting into the mind of the people that do the show. So that would kind of add an additional level, taking you deeper into the show. So that sounds really good.
Well, and it's
Go ahead, Marcel.
It's a really deep show. It's probably the deepest thing on TV right now. It outlasts Lost as far as actually paying off things that they plant years in advance. And I think it would be really smart of you. It doesn't take long to watch because it's 1 season of 7, 1 season of 8, and then 3 of 13. Plow through them. Get ready for the last 8 next summer. It's the very last 8. And then you can do what I do, like watch it on the night and then listen to the podcast right after. And it really enriches the show.
Yeah. Well, you can listen to our podcast too, but I would definitely recommend watching the show, then listening to the podcast, because if you listen to the podcast, there's too many things we talk about that it won't ruin the show because there's so much going on in each episode. But definitely podcast after watching the show. Best strategy.
Oh yeah, if you're going to listen to like our podcast, the season 1 or the season 2, wait till after the season. Like, we try not to spoil things too far in advance, like what's coming after. But if you listen to the season 2 podcast now, it's pointless because you need to see it.
Yeah. It's that good.
I'm going to get on that.
I would hesitate to say, like Marcel says, it's probably the best thing on TV. Like, I loved Deadwood. Did you guys ever watch that?
A little bit.
Was like, was it too intense or didn't get into it much?
I don't think I was able to get any more episodes at the time. Yeah, because I think it was like a friend had it, and then I just was never able to get around to getting to watch it.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome production and great acting. And then there was another one called Rome. Did you ever get a chance? That was only 3 seasons.
I didn't see Rome. The one I think I saw was I'm drawing a blank on it. It'll come back to me. But
yeah,
it was
Go ahead.
No, it was an older show. It'll probably come back to me, but it was I think it actually was Rome.
Could have been.
I think it was.
A lot of great history.
They had like
beautiful
the graffiti
production
and stuff, and it was really accurate to the time. Like there was really graphic graffiti, and I guess that was fairly typical in Rome, like everywhere.
Yeah, well, the famous Christian fish graffiti was there for sure. Yeah, as far as I'm really picky about what I watch, and I download everything that I watch. So I'll give a show 5 episodes, and if it's bad after 5 episodes, it gets deleted. So, and I watched Spartacus, and that was pretty good, but it was still borderline at parts of it. I thought they were a little over the top with their blood.
And pause.
Yeah, and pause.
Just thinking of those buckets of blood.
Sorry, I'm taking notes here about shows I should be watching. I do have the full series of Rome somewhere. It's not really my sort of thing, but I keep forgetting about Deadwood. I bought the entire series a few years ago, and I just keep forgetting to watch it. And I keep sitting there, once in a while and thinking, what TV show should I get started? What should I start watching? And I've really got to start on Deadwood.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it. I mean, there's a
What's happening?
With swear words? Oh, there's a muting going on.
Is everyone there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, we just had some mute happening.
Yeah, it just sounded like there was a little bit of background music for a second. But we're back.
Oh, weird.
Hi, everybody.
And we're back.
It happens at least once a week.
Was that a commercial break?
Yes,
yeah,
that was a commercial break. Except for
brought to you by random music.
That's right.
I have the same problem as you, Matt. That my list of shows to watch is just too long, and that's why this podcast is a good idea, because Bob's going to drag me into so many things I wouldn't do otherwise, or wouldn't get to soon enough, and vice versa. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's threatened to put me through some shows that I've never watched, so it should be interesting.
Oh, it will be. I'll be nice though. I'm not going to be like, we're doing Survivor for 24 weeks. I'm not going to do that or anything. But I want to, but I won't. But there are certain things I think that you would really dig that you don't think you'd dig. But we'll cross that bridge later on. Nothing too crazy.
All right. I'll give it a go, as they say. So what's everybody's favorite show on right now?
Oh, that's a good question. I was just talking about how much, going into last season, I would have definitely said that The Office is the show that I look forward to the most every week. I got to say it's probably Parks and Recreation right now, just because last season of The Office was really lackluster, and I think, again, I've already said this twice, but I didn't think that tonight's season premiere was all that great either, so it's not really, very high on my list right now. I got to say Parks and Rec. That's probably the show that I'm looking the most forward to.
Do you think that people that watch Parks and Rec, watch The Office, really enjoy The Office, would enjoy Parks and Rec, and people that don't like The Office wouldn't enjoy Parks and Rec?
That's a really good question. I don't know how to answer that, because it's not quite two different types of comedy, but it seems like it just hits on different senses of humor.
Mm-hmm. I would say that
definitely.
Parks. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'd say Parks and Rec is probably a little bit more universal in its storytelling. It's had to work a lot harder to get an audience because the concept isn't as universal sounding. But I feel like as far as basic humanity, emotionalness, and just amazing story structure, plotting out stories over, a whole year, and really making you feel and care and laugh your ass off. Like, Bob, I think you'd like Parks way more than The Office. You have to suffer through the awful first season and the first few of season 2, but like once they bring in Rob Lowe, and I forget his name, but the cute guy that Leslie's with. But like once they bring that in, it feels like the show really finds out what it is, and it is like week to week. It is just a joy to watch, especially last year. Like you'd love it, Bob.
You think you'd get away by skipping those first couple of crappy seasons and just
Well,
going
the
straight
first
in,
season,
or would I lose too much?
The first season's only, I think, 6 episodes, maybe 13. It's not that hard to get through because they're only 20 minutes a pop. And I would say it's very continuity-centric, so just suffer through it. It will pay off. Like, it's a great show. And you'll feel it. Like, the moment it's become good, you'll be like, I can't stop watching. It's like Breaking Bad.
Well, for me, the high water mark would be Community.
Oh, yes.
Right. What do you guys think of Community?
You know what? I really enjoyed the first couple seasons of Community, and I thought season 2 was fantastic. Marcel and I have spoken about this quite a bit. I thought that last season was good, but I mean, I love random things, and I thought they were going a little far too towards random to me. It just seems like every time I think about the way that they seem to draft some of these stories for Community, it seems like they've got 3 hats on a table, and one hat is a character that's going to be the main protagonist that week. The second hat is, a random scenario or situation that, no other sitcom has done or is just so wacky that no other sitcom would do. And then the third hat is full of locations that they could have it. So it seems like they're drawing one from each thing, and that's basically how they come up with the synopsis of that week's show. It's just it was a little bit too random for my liking last week. I thought it started to get really strong near the end of it, especially during the whole cancellation scare. And so, I mean, it closed out really strong. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they've got this season. But I think last season, I don't know, it was good at times, but I thought it just it was like a hop, skip, and a jump sort of thing.
Well, see, I felt like season 1 was a bit iffy, but had its moments. Season 2 kind of forged its own identity, and I felt like season 3 is when they finally figured out what they were. And I thought it was random, but it was like Arrested Development random, where it felt intentional. Like I never felt like they lost the audience season 3. I thought it was smarter than it used to be. And of course they, NBC didn't think that, and they fired Dan Harmon, and now we have 2 random guys who produced a bunch of bad pilots and used to be on Happy Endings when it was bad, running the show, and the first episode is a Hunger Games takeoff. So I have no faith in the new season, but I loved season 3. I'm sad he didn't love it, Matt.
Sorry. What can I say?
Yeah.
I am heartbroken. I'm going to cry for like an hour.
You're just going to have to live with man. Man up, dude. Man up.
Yeah, Marcel has my phone number. He's going to call and chew me out after the podcast.
That's hard.
You bastard!
That's hard for me to do, and I mean, Matt knows me. Like, I'll bring it up every time we talk for like 8 years. I'll be like, no, you were wrong about this season of this show, just in case you're wondering if we're still wrong.
God, that's like a total nerdism. Hey, speaking of great shows that are nerdy, what about the, oh crap, now I'm going to forget what it is. They're those guys that are all physicists and hang out in that apartment, sitcom style.
Big Bang
Thank
Theory.
you, Big Bang. Big Bang. Love Big Bang.
I love it too. Like, I feel like since they brought in Amy, the show's really figured out what it was. It's iffy sometimes, but it's the only show Chuck Lorre's touched that is anything. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I know that it's a personal favorite. I know it's a personal favorite of Adam's too. Am I right, Adam?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that the first couple seasons of The Big Bang Theory were just amazing. If you go back and you watch like How I Met Your Mother, the first season of How I Met Your Mother I think is far and away the best of the entire series, and I kind of feel that way about The Big Bang Theory too. But that being said, I don't feel that The Big Bang Theory has ever been, bad or lackluster at any point. I think that it's been consistently good. It's just that, they started to focus more on, they got very, very story heavy, and they started leaving behind some of the little nerdy things that they used to do that I really used to enjoy. Like there's a moment that I'm thinking of from either the first or second season where the guys, they put a boombox over on its side, and they saran wrap the speakers, and they I don't remember what they're doing, but they're doing something super nerdy in terms of combining like cornstarch and something else and creating this paste
That's actually a very cool experiment.
But that's the random kind of stuff that I really used to like them doing, just to show, hey, we've got a funny story, but these guys are still geeks, so they're going to do something that's very geeky, just to remind you that these guys are, super geniuses that are capable of doing crazy stuff like this just for the hell of it.
Do you think it was the boys from upstairs, the guys in the suits who were doing it, saying, "Look, you're being too nerdy and people don't relate to it"?
I don't know. That's a good point. I never really thought about it that way. Perhaps, but at the same time, that's what I thought gave the show a certain charm.
Well, I feel like they still have that stuff. Like recently, they had them making sandwiches with that big machine, or like the kissing machine thing. Or the whole story plot. Like there's a lot of geek-heavy stuff, but it's certainly become much more relationship-centric and much more let's focus on certain aspects of a character and look at it from a different angle than it used to be. And I almost feel like it's matured. I don't know, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the characters have matured over the last couple seasons, but there were little things like the number of visits that they used to make to the comic store, or like you were saying, some of the random things that they did, like the robot hand with Howard, and the fact that one episode where they had to go to the hospital. It's just
I remember that.
It's those little things that really, really make me laugh, and maybe it was because I wasn't the type of kid in high school who took physics class and took that sort of stuff, and so I didn't really get to experience those experiments. So I'm kind of watching them, come to me in TV. I was a lazy kid. I was more of an earth science and geology type of kid, because those are the quote unquote easy sciences in my high school. So.
Okay.
Did you like the one when Sheldon built the robot Sheldon? That's good stuff.
Yeah.
So what are the other great nerdy shows that are out there right now that would be comparable to that show, guys?
Nerdy shows that would, really.
Well, kind of an aside, I feel like genre TV has sort of died. Like when Lost was around, there was a lot of genre TV going on, and a lot of it was pretty good. And like nowadays, there's very little out that's pure genre, and anything that is just pretends to be genre. Like Awake was a big, critically acclaimed thing, but it was actually like a crime show pretending to be genre, and The Mentalist pretends that it has its own thing, but it's just another crime show with the same cases from CSI and Law and Order, and we're seeing that a lot, and I'm kind of wondering, like, where'd genre TV go? Where's the big geek-friendly stuff? You can only really get that with, like, Doctor Who and maybe some Supernatural, but that show's dying. I don't know. Kind of an aside.
Speaking of genre television, I have a question, and I don't want to sidetrack you guys. What was the event?
Oh my God! Shut up.
I don't know. I don't know what the event was, because right now because you guys mentioned Lost, and I was like, because they kind of had some Lost shows, but then I was like, the event. What was the event? Spoiler alerts.
What happened to the event?
Well, it was another one of those attempts at genre that had no plan or sense of direction. It was just a bunch of stuff, and because the network didn't get it either, they kept firing showrunners and hiring new showrunners, which we see over and over again. Like Falling Skies is doing that, and I just feel like networks don't get genre TV, so we get hot messes like the event, and the event was also crap.
So the event itself, crap.
I think so. I think it was just a pile of poop that became like an alien or something. And then all these weird flashbacks and flash forwards happened, and there was like a plane or something that disappeared. That's the event. There. Whole show.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty sad. Pretty sad. I was going to do a podcast on it, man, but just didn't have any legs.
Or like Terra Nova. Ugh.
Oh, you mean Jurassic Park, the TV show?
That was so bad.
What do you guys think of that one about the prison in San Francisco?
Wasn't that Alcatraz?
Yeah.
I remember seeing a few episodes of that, and it seemed like it was a crime show, but it had a really big lost element where they were like, oh, they're traveling through time or something. Like,
Exactly. It's like case of the week. You've seen it all before, but there's a twist. But it's not enough to make it memorable because every show is doing the same case of the week crap.
Yeah. Just clutching at straws.
And with J.J. Abrams, no answers are coming. Like, look at Alias, look at Lost, look at Revolution, which is starting now. It's kind of like, why even watch anything he touches? I don't know.
I don't think I would have finished watching. Whoa. I don't think I would finish watching this season if Hurley wasn't in it.
Yeah, I think that was actually the biggest thing. I was like, oh, Hurley's in it. I need to watch that.
Yeah.
yeah. Got to be cool with Hurley in it.
And he's just Hurley again, but like in a prison or something.
Yes.
Dude, Alcatraz, dude.
Yeah, does that mean he's going to be the ones running Alcatraz or something, just like Lost?
Yeah, Ben and Hurley running Alcatraz. That's what they should have done. But instead,
so I wanted to know.
Oh,
yeah. Go ahead, guys.
I was going to say, like, instead, Ben, built that giant machine from Minority Report for Person of Interest, which is yet another crime show that pretends
I like Person of Interest.
Did it get good? I tuned out after a while.
Near the end, it started being like the overlying plot rather than just the single weekly things. Once it actually started getting into the machine and stuff like that, I found it was really cool.
Okay.
But again, it's probably because Ben was in it that I actually really enjoyed it. So.
Does the machine
I don't think I watched that.
Love?
Huh?
Does the machine just want to love? Now that we're getting to know it.
No.
So what's the Great White Hope that's coming out now for a TV show that's gonna save TV?
Nothing. But
I don't
TV's
see anything
good right now.
No, I'm still very embittered towards NBC for canceling Best Friends Forever so early. I don't know if you guys watched that. If you had the chance to see it, it was a show that only lasted for 6 episodes last season, and I thought, you know what? If they're going to cancel something as good as Best Friends Forever, there's no hope for TV this season at all.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff they put on the air without understanding, and they don't know how to treat it. And
yeah, so basically,
executive plan.
Best Friends Forever was a show that came up against. It was competing against that Betty White show, Off Their Rockers. So, and they aired it on a Wednesday night in the middle of the summer, which is never really. Sorry, not the middle of the summer. I guess it was aired It was just as all of the other shows were sort of closing up for the season. So it was like the middle of April, and obviously the ratings sucked. The only way I found out about the show was I happened to be dog sitting my mom's dogs, and we were flipping around and saw a new show that was starting. So we thought, all right, well, we'll pop this on and watch it. I quite enjoyed it. And it lasted for 4 weeks before NBC pulled the plug on it, and they did a burn-off. They did like a Saturday night burn-off for the last 2 episodes. And I don't remember the last time that they did a Saturday night burn-off. I mean, in this decade, or even any time in the last 20 years. I mean, that was something that they used to do for shows like the Hogan Family back in the day. And so, sorry, did I just hit a sensitive chord there with the Hogan Family, Marcel?
Oh no! I'm not even sure what that is. Please don't punch me in the face.
That's okay.
Hey, when you said burn off, it reminded me of a show that I watched almost religiously for a bit called what's it called, Burn Notice or something, about the guy down.
Oh yeah,
that's still around.
So
yeah, that was very serial style and a lot of repeated stuff. But I just liked it so much. I liked his drunk buddy.
I have never seen that show, not once. So I think that's one of the shows that my mom PVRs week to week, and my mom and I really don't have very alike TV watching at all. I mean, I go over to her house and I'll be sitting there, sitting the dog, looking through a PVR, and all I'll see are episodes of The Twilight Zone, Hawaii Five-0, and about 4 or 5 other shows that I don't watch. So, and I think Burn Notice is one of them.
Huh.
See, I have a friend that loves Burn Notice, but I don't know. I watched a couple, but I'm not sure. It seems kind of like borderline bad, but entertaining, like maybe 24 was. It's hard to say.
I used to really like it, but I've really lost interest the last season or 2.
Yeah, I burnt out of it. No pun intended.
Hi-yo!
But it was like it's just too much of the same.
So, I mean, what I'm hearing a lot from what we're talking about tonight is that there are a lot of cases where we started watching shows and we got burnt out or something happened and we just kind of got bored of it. And something I've always wondered is, you guys know, having watched British and, British TV, that they tend to have 6-episode seasons, and I hear some people saying that, they often overkill the seasons here, and, with these 22-episode, 24-episode, 28-episode runs. What is it that's causing you guys to burn out of these shows? Is it just too much, or is it, changing showrunners like they did with Community, cast changes? What causes you guys to burn out of the shows that you enjoy the most?
Well, I mean, I'm the worst example ever because I tend to follow through until the bitter end with almost everything I watch. And you'll see that on the blog, like I'm covering stuff. Like Glee, I have a love-hate relationship with. I can't stop. Like 24, I couldn't stop. Lost, I couldn't stop. I can never stop. But I find most shows, like early on, they're really intense because they're figuring out what they are, and every scene feels like it has meaning. There's purpose to it, like the way Breaking Bad does right now. And usually shows run out of steam where you can tell they're just putting out an episode. They're not trying for anything. I think it's why The Office is bad now, because they're not trying for anything anymore, whereas they used to. And I think a lot of that has to do with writing turnover. But there's different answers for different shows. I don't know.
Good call. I mean, for me, I just find that the writers end up getting bored and repetitive, and they run up against a brick wall. And it's like, okay, guys, this is way too repetitive. The characters stop developing. Basically, over the season, the character doesn't change at all. I mean, at the beginning, he'll go through all these crises, and at the end, he's exactly the same. Well, that's okay for one or two characters, but if all the characters are like that, I get bored really quick. I mean, that's the problem with the CSI, the new CSIs. They're all these stereotypical characters, and on day one, that's the way they are. And 2 seasons later, they're exactly the same.
Well, what I used to say about The Office, what I keep saying, is the characters used to want things. They used to have motivations. And these days, it's more about one-off stories. There's very few arcs. There's not, like, what does Dwight want right now? What does Pam want right now? Michael's gone, but what did he want in his last season? I guess, Holly. But the writing is just, it's more stagnant. It's less about telling a story and more about just being comfortable in the status quo. And shows tend to get tired. But at the same time, I generally am fascinated by shows that go through that. Like with Glee, I can't stop watching because I just want to see how they're going to handle that. And even the lowest show still has high points at points. I always want to see what they're going to do and when they're going to surprise us and if they can still pull it out sometimes. It's fascinating to me.
For me, it's the overlying story. If like Person of Interest, if it's every week is just that, or the better example for me was the first couple seasons of Smallville had no big overlaying plot. It was just, here's the freak of the week. Oh, look, he beat the bad guy. Here's the freak of the week. Oh, he beat the bad guy. But if they doesn't do that big overlaying arc, I lose interest very early. I'm kind of like Marcel. I'll stick through it no matter what. But it's very difficult if it's the last 30 seconds is the only thing that relates to every episode.
Yeah, and do you guys ever feel like you're watching strictly out of brand loyalty? I mean, I kind of feel that way right now with Family Guy. Family Guy is a show that's been on since I was in grade 10 or grade 11, and all these years later, I find myself watching it, but I have to admit, I'm not really enjoying some of the new stuff they're putting out. It's almost gotten to the point where Seth MacFarlane has spread himself so thin, having to do like 12 hours of TV a week for Fox and animated series, that it's just, I don't know. I'm not laughing at anything anymore, and I used to laugh and cringe over everything on Family Guy before.
Well, because they're not trying anymore, and they feel like they have the audience. They don't need to try, and their idea of trying now is just formula. They're like, if we do the formula, we're fine, and that's what so many shows fall into. I think it's strange, like South Park, you look at South Park, I feel like South Park is still sharper than it used to be when it was popular, and I still watch it week to week, and it's really good. And then you look at like Simpsons, Cleveland Show, Family Guy, whatever, and they're all interchangeable. You can take one plot and put it in another, and it's the same thing. Although I think American
it's
Dad's
burnout?
surprisingly not bad.
American Dad, I will say, is different from Family Guy because it feels funnier. Like I laugh when I watch American Dad. Family
Same thing.
Guy,
Yeah, I laugh at American Dad. That's what you should be doing. I just think writers get comfortable, and then they don't feel the need to try. So they don't try as hard, and then you end up with something like the last season of The Office, where they think they're being silly and wacky, but they're not really pushing anything. Or Family Guy right now.
I feel like I need to go back and defend The Simpsons a little bit because I know that there were some very dark times in The Simpsons past the last few years. I'd say that between 2005 2008, The Simpsons were absolute crap. They knew, but then they realized that all of their viewers were going over to Family Guy and they were getting their ass kicked in their ratings by Family Guy. Something happened, and I think that the show has actually been much better than the last 4 years. I would argue that The Simpsons has been much better than Family Guy since maybe about 2008.
They still have. I think I'd probably agree. They still have high points. Like The Simpsons, it's iffy, but every now and then they'll have an episode where it's like they thought that out. And I've noticed now what they do is they throw an awful lot of freeze frame gags. Like every scene is just filled with stuff you can pause and find, and they do that a lot now. And I think it's like adapting to the internet or something. It's I don't know. I find it fascinating how The Simpsons is still around and how they keep changing. You know, even though it's not that great. It's certainly more noteworthy than Family Guy.
Yeah, I think that they've got 2 years left on this current contract, or they signed a 2-year contract last year. So it's either 20. I think the contract expires in 2014, and I think that's when they might be saying, you know what, 25 years is enough. But I mean, the ratings are still pretty strong. People are still into it quite a bit. So,
well, and you got a new generation coming back, rediscovering it. I mean, if you're doing a show that is that long, you're basically kids that were born 25 years ago are probably getting into it or heavily into it again.
Yeah, there are probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of viewers of The Simpsons that have only known The Simpsons in their entire life. You know, since the show's been on since was it Christmas Eve of 1989, or maybe the week before Christmas 1989. And they started regularly, I think, in 1990. So, I mean, you know, that's for kids that are, you know, just graduating from high school, just going into college, maybe even just graduating college now. The Simpsons has been, you know, incorporated into their life ever since they were that young.
What really depresses me about The Simpsons, really on the same topic, is syndication. They chop everything up, they throw it into syndication. The issue with The Simpsons now is there's more bad Simpsons than good, because they've had probably 10 years where it's not as, like they had a good run of, say, season 3 to maybe 13, 14, something like that, where almost every week brought it to the table. And since then, every now and then they'll bring it, but not really. And the issue with, like, high school kids growing up now, if they turn on the TV and they're going to watch The Simpsons, there's a 70% chance they're going to see a bad episode of The Simpsons, and they're not even going to realize the power that it used to have. And that makes me a little bit sad.
Yeah, you've really got to go back to the Comedy Network in Canada for something like that, because the Comedy Network, for the most part, they air the stuff that happened in the first 10 years, because they kind of got it right, and they said, you know what, we don't want any of the shit from season 11 beyond. We're just going to air the old stuff. And I find that it seems like at least once every 2 months, they seem to just burn through all of season 6, which a lot of people consider to be the greatest season of The Simpsons ever. You know, it's got the episodes like Last Train to Springfield, which is still considered to be one of the best episodes of The Simpsons, if not the best. You know, the one that people consider to be kind of the crowning achievement for the Simpsons.
That is my favorite season. Like that, they brought in Homer's mom in that one, didn't they?
Sorry, last exit to Springfield. That's what the episode's called.
Which one was that? I feel awful.
Last exit to Springfield is just trying to think off the top.
Isn't that when Lisa goes to the dentist? Isn't that season 4?
I think that's I think that's the one that's the one with the dental plan. Yeah.
Dental plan.
Is it season 4?
Yeah, but season 4 is still amazing.
So I got a quick thing that I want to jump in here with. Remember a while back we made reference. We were talking about Polybius, the game that the urban legend game. There is a Simpsons screenshot where he's looking at a console game, but the game next to it is Polybius, and it's got just a green button. And it says property of U.S. government on the console, so it's a little cross-episode reference.
Nice. Tying back the old G3 podcast to tonight.
I am the archive system, so.
And that's just another example of the stuff they hide. Like they've become much more freeze-frame gag centric. Like they had one episode about books where there was tons of book shout-outs. They had a food episode where they put pretty much every TV chef bouncing on balls or something in there. They do a lot of, like, if you're a specific fan of something, you can find something now. It's interesting.
Yeah. And now
well, they've had a long time to do it.
There's something that I wanted to ask you guys about the popularity of television right now, and I know that both of you, having watched Breaking Bad, you definitely got to be into the network shows, but it seems like every time I flip over to Twitter, nobody's been talking about any network show outside of Glee, with the exception of all the AMC shows right now. And I'm caught up on Walking Dead. I'm about halfway through the last season of Mad Men, and I was telling Marcel off the air that I'm about 5 years behind Breaking Bad. But what is it that fascinates everybody so much about the AMC programming more than anything else?
Well, I think, like, AMC is kind of the new HBO, and if Twitter were around 10 years ago and you went on Twitter, very few network shows would have been talked about. It would have been mostly cable. Because, I mean, the media, as far as the nerd media, they almost always put most emphasis on the cable stuff, because that's where you can get the really ambitious stuff, and network kind of gets the short end of the stick. I mean, I think, like, How I Met Your Mother has a big Twitter following, and a couple other shows, but definitely, like, AMC has Mad Men, Breaking Bad, Walking Dead, and those are just so damn hot. And HBO, I mean, they used to have all the hot shows. They'd have 5 or 6 at a time. And I just feel like AMC's cutting edge right now. HBO's kind of backing off a little bit, maybe not with Game of Thrones, but it's always been a little bit more centered on the cable stuff, because that's when you can really push the envelope. Or at least that's how I see it. And you can be more daring. Network has more, like, rules, Like, this is the way you tell a story, we're going to dumb it down for the audience. Whereas HBO's like, yeah, you have an idea, do it, whatever.
Yeah, I think with the big networks, it's death by management. They just like, oh, this is great, but I think you should do this, and I think you should do that, and da-da-da-da. And, they're fiddling, and they're destroying the artist's work, and that's very disheartening. And what you do is you get these neutered shows that are pretty bland and safe, and I think what's going to happen is that you can't play it that way anymore. And that's what AMC is showing, is look, you take a little bit of risk, and you'll get the people watching.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't quite say I understand the AMC trend, because, I mean, Breaking Bad I understand, but Mad Men, maybe I'm just a bad person. I've tried and tried and tried. I can't get into it. I think it'd be a fun thing to try on the podcast one day. But I find it a little bit dry and a little bit like other shows have done what they're doing and better, and it's really repetitive. And then there's Walking Dead, which is just like a lot of tricks from Lost's book, but Lost did it better. And they kind of flail about without a sense of direction. And it's good sometimes. I really like it sometimes, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff I watch that's better than Walking Dead. But having said that, they're finally doing the prison arc from the comic books that everyone talks about, and I cannot wait for the next season. I think it's going to be, like, the best.
And I think the next season of Walking Dead begins November. Is that what I've heard?
October. They always do it pre-Halloween.
Right. I have to say, for me, the thing that got me into Mad Men, Marcel, I went to broadcasting school and, learned a lot about advertising and things like that. So that's what sort of drew me in. That, and I've always kind of liked the 50s and the 60s, just the feel of the way everything was. So, I mean, it's stupid things that drew me into Mad Men more than the plot. But, I have to admit, it was at one point when I started watching one of my favorite shows. It sort of, backed off the last couple seasons, but there were stupid things that brought me into Mad Men, and that's what I'm thinking brought a lot of people into Walking Dead too, right? Because zombies are the thing. Zombies are appearing everywhere. I mean, everywhere from Call of Duty to, I don't know, half the video games out there, Dead Island, Dead Rising. So it's kind of the cool trend that's going on right now. And I think that's what's got a lot of people going in, is not necessarily the stories behind it, just the fact that there are zombies there.
Well, it's the same reason why True Blood was huge when it started for the first few years, because vampires were the thing for a while. But, quick, backtrack with Mad Men. I have kind of a weird theory I've always had about why I don't like Mad Men that I've never quite said to anybody, but I might as well throw it out there. Like, there was a show that used to air called Queer as Folk that you guys aren't gay, so you have never seen it. But there was the main character on that show was a dicky advertising executive named Brian, who was like the pitch guy. And there were so many episodes where, the like conservative people would be like, "Oh, we're conservative. We have dumb ideas," and then he'd be like, "Here's the sexy idea, the great idea. I'm wowing you with this pitch." And usually those scenes would wow the audience too, because Brian would like pull something out that's insane. And then Brian was also a very self-destructive person to the people in his life with substances, giant slut. And I look at Mad Men, and it's kind of like a boring, straight Brian, but it's a period piece. And because there were a few scenes. I mean, I love a good Don Draper pitch. He is amazing as an actor, but I feel like half of those scenes I've seen before, but way gayer. And I don't know. I don't think most people feel like they've seen Mad Men before because they never watch Queer as Folk because they're not gay. And I think I just that small percentage where I never quite got into it because I felt like Queer as Folk was not a great show. It was not. But it did a few things that Mad Men did and kind of did them first. I don't know.
I've actually seen Queer as Folk. I had a girlfriend who watched it, so...
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was just a typical like drama, and I mean, there was some times where there was like, you know, it was just a typical drama from what I could see.
I mean, I think it was good. They actually did have a beginning, middle, and end. Few shows do that.
Yeah.
But it was very, very, very melodramatic to the point of just, really, this is what you're doing, guys. But it wasn't a great show, but I'd say it's noteworthy. Check it out, guys.
I think it's on Netflix.
Another one for my list.
Don't check it out. I've tried to show it to straight people, and they're like, "Whoa, this is graphic," because it is.
There's a lot of gay sex in there, and then, I mean, there's a lesbian couple in there, and they occasionally have sex. And then there's like I don't want to spoil it for anyone who might want to watch it out there. So I'm not going to get into it.
Nobody wants to watch it. Nobody cares about Queer as Folk. That's just a fact.
What about great British shows? We mentioned that a little earlier about that big long one.
I've been waiting for this. Red Dwarf.
So
the IT
what about
Crowd.
Okay. Office Crowd. Lucifer, definitely. Unbelievable. Very, very cool.
Oh, yeah.
What do you guys think about Red Dwarf 10? Well, what do you guys think about Red Dwarf? Do you think it was
Red
good?
Dwarf.
Awesome. Like, it was great, and then I feel like they got a bit tired when they came back a couple times. But
yeah.
I've heard early word that Red Dwarf 10 is supposed to be a return to form.
Wow.
I'm just wondering what you guys think.
I have not watched a minute of Red Dwarf in my life, so I'm going to send that over to Beau.
So Red Dwarf 10 is... This is actually news to me, so this is... you may want to elaborate a little bit.
Oh, say that again. I'm sorry.
So I haven't heard of the news. There's supposed to be a new season of Red Dwarf. I have not heard this.
See, I think it might already be airing in the UK or very soon. I honestly didn't quite keep track of it because I know nobody here is going to air it soon. So I've just kind of barely heard that it's happening, but it is happening.
Huh.
I'll Google that.
Oh, I love Red Dwarf. Red Dwarf is... See, the funny thing is that I'm nerdy in a lot of ways, but the thing is, I've never watched an episode of Star Trek, any of them. I mean, like, I've seen probably the typical ones you have to see, like where Captain Kirk has to fight that lizard on the planet, and you have to see those ones, because those are ones you need to see. But Red Dwarf was just so great, and it was so hilarious for what it was. I mean, a science fiction comedy. It sounds kind of, I don't know, but I mean, it's just incredible. Like, every moment of it, the different aspects of time travel and all the amazingly, like, great sci-fi plots that you would come to expect in any sci-fi show, they just take it so well. Like, Ace, Ace, I can't remember his last name, but Rimmer, yeah. I loved that whole, like, branch of when that happened. The whole thing is just amazing.
I love how they had so many really high concept episodes, like the Backwards episode, or the one where Rimmer gets stranded alone on a planet, or the White Hole, or when they met their future loser selves, or various alternate universe, alternate timelines, whatever. And they were always very high concept about it, never ever tried to dumb it down. I'd say like they were smarter than Star Trek, any Star Trek ever was probably, and people are going to send me angry emails. But like it was just for a while there, it was amazing.
Yeah,
That was an awesome show.
Yeah,
And funny.
very funny. The jokes in it were very, like, it ranged from, because I think that was the best part, is that, Rimmer and Lister, they had so many different levels of their humor. It was just spectacular. Like, Lister was just, the guy who's just kind of, you just play him off like the lazy guy. But, I mean, some of his jokes would just be, beyond pretty hilarious and intelligent. I mean, and same thing with Rimmer, as Rimmer was, the smart alecky guy, but the best part is that he would also make, like, just a wide spectrum of jokes, and I love that, because it was just any kind of range that people could just get into,
I find it literally impossible to choose a favorite between Cat, Crichton, Lister, and Rimmer. It's impossible. They're all just great. And apparently my Skype is crashing, so I'm going to disappear for a few minutes, and I'll see you guys soon.
Okay. Well, hey, now we get a chance to talk. I love this guy as a co-host because you just get him going, and he can fill a whole hour for you. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I've known Marcel for 6-7 years now, and it's always been, if there is a conversation that needs to be started or a conversation that needs to be carried on or diversified, Marcel's definitely your guy.
Yeah, he's Mr. Facts and Figures for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you do broadcast, is it every Saturday or Sunday night, Bob?
I'd like to ask you guys, because, we've just done one show. We're going to be launching our second show. We're saying 5 o'clock on Sunday. We're going to experiment with that release time. What do you guys think? Would that be a time that you would spend an hour listening to the show? Or, I mean, the whole thing is we're pre-recording and then broadcasting through RSS. Not the way you guys are doing it. So, you can watch the show or listen to the show anytime you want. So it goes up on iTunes and BlackBerry and all those networks, but it also has a website that it posts to.
Yeah,
so,
I think that for me, definitely Sundays work better. Saturdays for me are usually worse, but I'm a huge mixed martial arts fan, so I'm always watching UFCs whenever they're on Saturdays, and Saturdays I definitely would not, probably would not be able to tune in until later on in the week. Sundays, if I were to be listening live, Sundays at 5 are perfect because, if you're kind of getting into like Animation Domination, some of the other Sunday night shows that air live, even like I think Mad Men airs on Sundays as well. I don't know when anything airs now because of the fact that I just PVR everything, but Sundays at 5 o'clock would actually be a perfect time. If we were looking at some time on the weekend, that would be the best time for me.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll try it. Now, that's Pacific time. Where are you guys located?
I'm located about 10 minutes away from Marcel. I'm in Burnaby, so...
Oh.
Yeah, we're all... The G3 podcast, the reason that we have it at this time is because all of our hosts are on the West Coast. So it's myself and it's Adam. Adam's in New West. I'm in Burnaby. Beau's in Seattle. Christine, who's not on the show tonight, but is usually our other co-host, she's in Sacramento, California. So we're all West Coast. And I will say... we also, obviously the show's available for download in a few different venues after it's over. We actually don't have that big of a live listening audience. All of our listeners tend to come between Friday and Wednesday usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. So let's talk a little bit more about British shows. I've been watching Life on Mars, really enjoying it. Season 2 is getting, it's getting repetitive again. But I really enjoyed it. It's an older series. Do you guys ever watch that one?
I have to admit, the only British show that I've watched in the last couple of years is the IT Crowd. That's really the only one that I've been into.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
I would probably be a little more with the British shows, because, I've seen quite a few. I watched a lot of PBS when I was younger, so I watched a lot of, like, imported television shows. I didn't see Life on Mars. I saw the United States version. I didn't see the UK version, unfortunately. But as with any case, the US version is not going to be as good as the UK version. I'm going to say this, and you can direct all your hate mail to @BeauWJohnson at Twitter. I don't like the US office. I like the UK office because it was emotional and funny. It was a wide spectrum of emotions. It wasn't just a comedy. Like, there were some rough moments where you're just like, that was awkward. I can't believe he said that. And it kind of was very engaging with its emotions. Like The Office is for the UK or US is humor because I mean it's a lot of the people that are in it. It's very humor based, but there were some things where something would happen where you would kind of break away and you're like, oh, that wasn't funny, you know, and it would kind of add a different tone and give like an extra dimension to some of the characters in the show.
I'm back. I love the British Office. Like it's and I love that Greg Daniels carried over to the U.S. Office and ran it when it was good. But like especially, I don't want to spoil things for people that haven't seen it. But the way they handled the ending with the 2 Christmas specials, there's a few moments that are absolutely heart wrenching. Like how they kind of get into the David Brent's head. You know, like I would recommend it to anybody.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so what about other British shows that you enjoyed? Misfits was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, I used to watch that.
Spaced was one of my additional favorites. I mean, as you can probably tell, comedy is the only TV show that I seem to watch. So like you know, the Spaced was probably hands down one of the best comedy TV shows that has come out of the UK. Besides the IT Crowd and Red Dwarf, Spaced was just hilarious because it was an up-to-date nerdy comedy show, and you know the whole aspect of Simon Pegg playing Resident Evil 2 high on like Scottish speed because he was forced into it at a bar, like that's just hilarious. He's playing Resident Evil 2 the whole game or the whole episode, which is great.
I really want to see that. Like I've heard nothing but good things.
It's great. I mean, I recommend it highly. It's a you know it does a lot of pop culture references, and even so far in the DVD, it will actually have subtitles where it will pop up with the reference of what movie they were making fun of. It's spectacular.
Oh wow! So it's like the Doctor Who DVDs where it's got info at the bottom.
Yeah, kind of like a pop-up video for the ages.
I love how the Brits do that. We should do that.
Okay.
You know what? There was a TV show that did that, and I can't for the life of me remember. They called it enhanced subtitles. It might have been South Park, could have been Arrested Development. I don't remember who, but there was a U.S. TV show that tried that, and there aren't enough shows that try doing that. The ones that you know sort of reference other shows here and there. I know it's been tried before, but I think it was just a colossal failure for the North American market here.
Well, I remember when pop-up video was huge. They had like Drew Carey show had a pop-up episode, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, other sort of things.
Yeah, and they did bring back pop-up video. I mean, they are still they started first run episodes again last year, but it's a different time now. You know, it's not as cool as it was 15 years ago because all this information wasn't so readily available. Nowadays, if you want to find out the entire backstory, along with different trivia facts, along with outtakes and the little freeze frame gags. You've got Wikipedia, you've got IMDb, you've got any number of places that you could turn to on the internet. Whereas 15 years ago, when pop-up video was kind of in its heyday, none of that existed. Wikipedia didn't exist until 2000. IMDb was probably around back then, but it was very small, and the trivia sections probably weren't as verbose as they are now.
IMDb was 1990, but it never really caught on for a long, long time.
Yeah, I don't think it caught on for most people until, maybe 2003, 2004.
Were you like me? You used to watch pop-up video to learn when you were in school? I did that.
Yes, yeah, I admit doing that. I remember when I was visiting my cousin in California in the summer of 1995 or 1996, and it was just before Much More Music in Canada picked up pop-up video and brought it to Canada. And my cousin was watching VH1 back when they actually showed music videos, back when music television was actually music television. And he goes, "You got to sit down and watch this." I'm like, "What is this?" He goes, "Pop-up video." And I'm like, "What the hell's pop-up video?" So I sit down and watch it with him, and it was like the greatest thing in the world. It was like, for somebody that loved Jeopardy and loved game shows and loved all that stuff, it was like the most perfect TV show for me to sit and watch. So I totally ate into the fad of pop-up video in the mid-90s.
I was like you. Like when they had marathons on Much, I'd just sit and watch it. It was like at the time there was nothing like it.
Yeah. And I remember, I mean, I will still to this day remember some little facts about music videos that I saw on pop-up video, and I'll bring it up and try and reference it, and nobody will care except for you, Marcel, because nobody understands what I'm saying half the time.
Oh, I'm like you. I understand.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah, I
understands
just-
what I'm saying half the time. We're good.
Yeah, I just went onto YouTube and put in pop-up video, and they've got them all on YouTube now.
Oh, the actual episodes.
Well, it says pop-up video.
Yeah, they probably got a whole bunch
I'll
of the
be
little
there
music.
for you.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
probably got a whole bunch
you-
of little music videos from the 90s and things like that. I would definitely recommend, if you're going to get into pop-up video, track down some of the episodes from the 90s. Don't watch the stuff that they aired last year, just because it's not as... The facts aren't as crazy and as silly as they used to be. Like, I remember they had a pop-up video for Come On Eileen from Dexy's Midnight Runners, and they were talking about...
classic.
Yeah, and they were talking about the fact that the lead singer of Dexy's Midnight Runners fired the entire band during the photo shoot for Come On Eileen. So eventually you see less and less guys from the band that started in the video progress until the end of the video, where he's sitting there alone, and they're saying Kevin's sitting here alone because he fired the rest of the band. And it was for little things, like he told the drummer, don't show up with a beard tomorrow. The drummer showed up with a beard for the photo shoot, and he fired him on the spot. You know, it was that kind of stupid stuff.
If Jepson's Call Me Maybe would be the same.
Yeah. So, Bob and Marcel, I've actually got to close up with you guys because we've run a little bit over time here. I just wanted to know, we found out where folks can tune into Crazy TV Talk. We know that you're going to be piloting Sunday at 5 Pacific. You've got a website in the works as well, right? Or has the website been launched?
Yes, it's up there.
Yeah, it's been up for a couple weeks. Right now I'm reviewing all the first-run shows, and we'll probably put some other stuff up there. And we have a contest.
Okay.
Oh, you tell them about the contest.
Yeah, it's called Caking Bad. You know my sister, Matt. Matt, you know my sister, right? My identical twin sister.
Maggie, yeah.
Yeah, well, she's got a business right now where she makes fake cakes for wedding photos. And so she's going to be designing a Breaking Bad themed cake. We're still working out what it's going to be. And if you follow us and her on Twitter and you retweet the contest tweet, we'll send you the cake. We'll put you in a draw. We're not sure if pandering for Twitter followers is a faux pas or not. I guess we're going to figure that out. But yeah, we've got a contest, and hopefully we can give someone a fake Breaking Bad cake with some iconic imagery. It'll be something.
Yeah, nowadays I don't think pandering for Twitter followers is faux pas. I think it's a very effective way to build your listener base and your follower base. So definitely follow. It's at Crazy TV Talk and at Frosted Knots, right? Knots being KNOTS.
Yep, and that's awesome that you remember that. You are the best.
Yes, thank you. I do not follow your sister on Twitter, and I think I'll have to do that.
Hey, would you like to come down to the bunker show?
Yes, come down to the bunker.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to definitely join you guys one day.
Yeah, if you go to meetup.com and just put in the Bunker Project, then you'll get all the information you need to know, and because we only do it every 2 weeks. We do a double show on a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. I was telling Marcel that Wednesdays are a little bit tough because I do co-host another podcast on Nerdgasm here called The Dungeon, but there might be, that's only a temporary hosting thing for me right now until Dante and Sean sort of find their feet. So I might join you one day. Where can our listeners find you guys on Twitter? Bob, I know you've got about 90,000 followers, so they know where to find you, man. But where can we find you, Marcel?
Well, I went into Twitter exile after I, totally bombed the movie yearbook. But right now I'm piloting the Crazy TV Talk Twitter at Crazy TV Talk. It's Bob and I, but mostly me right now. It's kind of my little corner of the internet, and I mostly just post links to stuff so that when you go to the website on the right-hand side, it's almost like a blog roll, like you're reading my reviews, and then you can click on fun things online. That's kind of the idea I have. But if y'all want to come on and talk to me, I love talking to people, so that's where you can find me.
And Bob, where can folks find you on Twitter?
It's at Bob Garlick, BOBGARLICK, and actually, if you Google Bob Garlick, you get about 9 pages of links because I do a lot of content. So I've got a couple of. I do the Bunker Project, of course, Crazy TV Talk. But I also do another podcast on business books called businessbooktalk.com. So we've done about 110 business books so far.
Very cool. Well, I wanted to thank you guys for coming on the show tonight. We'll definitely stay in touch. Maybe we'll have you guys back later on in the TV season. We can talk about what's been canceled so far, what's kind of bombed, what's looking good. We'll have you guys on again in maybe a few weeks or a few months.
Absolutely.
And, anytime.
And if you check out our show, give us some comments. We've got a phone number that you can call if you want to leave a recorded message, and then we can play that and talk to your question or your comment.
Yeah, and I mean, if any of you guys are like religious fans of whatever it is we end up covering next after Breaking Bad, like if any of you guys are fans, you're always welcome to come on the show and geek out with us too. Like we're probably going to want to try out guests sooner or later, and you guys are of course welcome.
Absolutely, give us a ring. I will. You know, I'm available anytime, Marcel. So
I'd be down. I'm most definitely down.
I've never been a guest host before. A guest on a podcast before. So maybe I can.
It's overrated.
Good one.
Well, I'll keep that in mind the next time that we're going to invite you on.
All right, guys. It was awesome chatting with you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, gentlemen. Have a good night.
Okay. Is it cool if I stick around just out of curiosity? I probably won't talk much.
Yeah, always.
Awesome.
I know that you're going to enjoy our next topic here.
Is it boobs?
No, unfortunately not. So Borderlands 2 came out on Tuesday. Yeah.
Kind of about boobs.
All right. Well, I haven't played Borderlands, so I don't know if it is about boobs. So anyway, Borderlands 2 came out, and a lot of people we're calling this one the preemptive game of the year, game of the decade, game of the century, whatever you want to call it. It was scoring high from all of the different publications, and XBoxAddict is no exception. XBoxAddict gave it a 93%, and it was reviewed by our fellow co-host Adam DeLeva. So, Adam, has it stood up to its potential label? Can it withstand the barrage of new games from here until the end of the year to keep that title of Game of the Year? Or is it just a little bit of smoke blowing up people's asses at this point?
Well, I was going in expecting more of the same, and it is more of the same. I mean, it's about guns and loot and stuff like that, but I was kind of nervous about it because I liked the first game, but I never really got into it. I never maxed a character out. I never found a class that I liked, so I was worried that I was going to find the same thing with Part 2. Luckily, they've stuck with what worked. They've made some things better. I mean, it's not perfect. There is some hiccups and stuff like that, but it's amazing. They actually made a class that I actually really enjoy, so that's probably partly why I'm really enjoying it. I mean, you've got 4 new classes this time. You got 4 new characters. So it's not just going to be the same game all over again. It's actually playing new characters, learning new classes, and all those characters from the first game are in the second game, and you'll be helping them. Like, you'll help Roland, and you'll help characters from the first game. So it's really cool how they've incorporated it, because it takes place about 5 years after the first game, after the vault's been open. The characters are very unique, so it's not just the same thing with some very minute changes. I found that was something not wrong, but I found in the first game it was hard to differentiate yourself from your friends. I mean, yeah, you had some skill perks and stuff like that, but everyone kind of did the same thing, where they've redone the whole skill tree this time, and you can specialize in one thing. Like, my guy can lay down a turret, so I can basically make my turret more powerful. I can make it, I can make it throw a nuke. I can, however I want to differentiate myself. And playing online, I played with another guy with the same class, and he played his completely different than I played mine, which I thought was really neat. They've added some really cool things. You've got a badass rank now. Basically, everything you do is tracked. So every time you open a loot chest, every time you kill a guy with a fire weapon, with a shock weapon, stuff like that. And basically, it's a meta game where, you kill 10 guys with fire, you'll get a point. If you kill 100 guys with fire, you'll get another point. If you open 1,000 loot boxes, you'll get these badass tokens. And what they do is they allow you to further customize your character by, basically with each token you get to pick from a list of 5-6 different options, better gun damage or reload speed or anything like that. But what's really cool about it is that it's tied to your profile. So if you decide to make a new character, all those badass ranks that you've unlocked and all those perks, you'll start your level 1 new character with those perks already intact, which I found was really cool.
So,
yep.
Okay, so I'm just curious. You said that there were a few things wrong with the first game that you were hoping that they improved on, and they did. Are they kind of to your satisfaction? And Beau, I mean, you were telling me you were looking forward to Borderlands 2 as well. What is it everything that you were expecting and more?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's difficult for me to try and find something that I don't like with it because every part of it has just been really fun. The visual aspects of it have been really good. It's simple visual improvements that just stop me. Like, I was in the middle of the tundra and I was running around doing running and gunning, and I was running back to the main base to get ammunition, and I passed by a shed, and I stopped, and I was like, wait a second, is that shed glowing? And if you look at buildings like just right where the moon or wherever a light source in the sky is, it will reflect kind of a glow off of it, and it gives it a beautiful shadow. I mean, it's incredible. It's artistic. Borderlands 1 is you had the cell shading, and that was pretty much it. But you weren't. It was more about kind of the Diablo with guns aspect. This one, it branches out and it makes it beautiful. It takes away some of the cell shading aspects where it'll have like the when you get into the desert, you'll see tire tracks. It seem a little more realistic where they're kind of breaking outside of that. They still have the hard lines when you're looking at characters and everything, but visually it's beautiful. It's beautiful than the last one. The last one was very simplistic on how its appearance was, but gameplay is also just little things make it more difficult and make it a little more engaging. I had a sniper. I just sit in the back. I would just pick off people, and that was how I played. My level on Borderlands 1 is, I think I maxed out, or I got really high. I was like 40 or 45 for my sniper. But that's because I just sat in the back, and I would snipe these guys, and if they got too close, or if I was pinned down, I'd throw out the hawk. The hawk would kill everything. It kind of got repetitive, but, I was trying the other DLC, so it was a different area, so it kind of did keep that alive, but I was still doing the same thing. This, I take that same mentality, and I watch a guy roll out of the way. I'm like, whoa, he can't do that, So now I have to change that up. I'm camping. I'm just kind of camping outside of a base, just picking off people, and a grenade comes over to me. Now I've got to run. I can't be in that area. It's dangerous. So now I'm out in the open again, and I have to constantly keep, being active, changing up my role, because the sniper was perfect for me. I love sniper roles in any game, but this is just, it takes you out of that safe element where you're like, well, you just can't do that, because the game senses that you're doing that, and it kind of gets a little more aggressive, noticing that you're camping or wherever, and it adds a lot of challenge and difficulty to the game that I think Borderlands 1 didn't have, So it kind of gives it that more engaging aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree about the visuals. Everything looks just sharper, cleaner, brighter. There's way more detail. Water actually looks really nice this time around. The things I found, like, there is some minor stuff. There's like texture pop-in issues and stuff like that. Nothing that I really lowered the score for. You can reskin your character, but it's really just a palette swap for the most part. I found vehicles were still they were just from getting point A to point B for the most part. I mean, there's a couple of missions where you do things with it, but for the most part, it was still just your quick travel resource.
Yeah.
Aside from that, yeah, it's such a better game. Like, the audio is still amazing. The writing, I find, is way better in this. I mean, there's some parts in here I was actually laughing really loud. If you remember early on, remember the boner farts quest?
I think that I might not have gotten to that point. Like, I haven't been able to play since yesterday. I was supposed to go to a big Borderlands thing, and I get there, and they're like, "Oh, we can't plug in your computer, man." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, it's an old apartment. I might blow a fuse, and all the Xboxes will shut off." So I couldn't play yesterday. I had to watch people, but it was still good.
Yeah, the writing is so good in this. Handsome Jack, the new bad guy, is hilarious. Like every line is just gold. I almost
the
lost
Diamond
it when
Pony.
I almost lost it when I found Claptrap's secret hideout. I'm enjoying it so much more, which I'm really happy about, because the first one, I know it was a great game. I never connected with it. It didn't click with me as much as I was hoping it would. But yeah, the online's great. The only thing I didn't like about the online is the loot is shared. So if you go with randoms and someone picks up all the loot, there's really nothing you can do. Especially if you're like you, and if you stay back and snipe and kill everything, and he's up there, up front in the front line, he can take all the loot, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I haven't, unfortunately, I haven't yet, and I'm really excited to do the multiplayer for this. So, doing the multiplayer for the first one was okay. You're doing the same thing, but you got another person. It was a little more difficult, but it didn't really, This one, I'm way more excited because it's a little deeper and engaging, and it's going to be really helpful to have that person around trying to help you get unpinned from area, thanks to the grenades and other aspects that the enemies now have.
Well, they've definitely upped the risk versus reward is definitely scaled up. It gets much harder if you have 4 people, but the rewards are so much better. So it's very balanced that way. And with the 4 different classes, they're much more diverse, I find. So it's very cool if you have one of each character.
Yeah, like a true kind of like you go like what is it? Like Gauntlet. You mean?
Yeah.
You gotta have somebody that throws arrows or throws fire or something. You can't have just a bunch of strong people running around. You're gonna be in trouble. You can't just do that.
I love how every class can use every weapon. You're not limited to being a stealth guy, and you only have to use a sniper and stuff like that. I basically keep one of each weapon on hand.
I always did that with my character anyway, because the thing is I would just burn out of bullets for one gun, and then I would have to switch to a next gun and the next gun. Because if I was in an area where I couldn't get ammunition so easily, then I'd have to switch to my gun. So it would be, you'd have to keep one of the guns on hand for each of the stuff, because that's just the way that it would seem. Because you would run out of bullets for a pistol, and got to get to my SMG. SMG's out, I got to get to my shotgun.
Yeah, no, same thing. I find bullets are very resource heavy in this, so I'm always searching and switching guns and stuff like that. I find side quests are a lot better and a lot more entertaining this time around. I mean, there's still, collect this, kill this, but I find the writing and the reasoning is much better, and it's a good way to level up between story quests. I find the story quests take very big gaps in difficulty. So, like, you can do one, no problem. The next one is, like, a level or 2 ahead of you, and if you're not very good at your spec points, it's very, very challenging.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question. In all the gushing that you've been doing about Borderlands 2 here over the last few minutes, now I'm curious now, kind of from the outside, because this isn't really a game that I'm into. Is it a good candidate, or is it the game of the year so far in your eyes, or is there something that's come out that's better that kind of still kind of supersedes this game?
Would Skyrim count as coming out for, game of the year? But Skyrim's been out for a while.
Skyrim came out last year.
Yeah, I've been locked into a time stasis machine, so I don't really know. From the games that I've seen this year, that is the front runner. Like, I haven't really seen very many games that have made me kind of just anticipate for the pre-order. But that was a game that I saw that was available for pre-order, and I was like, I really should get this, And once I checked my bank account, and I was like, okay, everything's safe, go time, got the pre-order, like. That and Torchlight 2. Those are the 2 games right now that I've so far pre-ordered. It's going to be a tough night tonight because it's Torchlight 2 or Borderlands 2, and but I would say Borderlands 2 right now is so far a very high up game in my mind. for it.
I definitely put it on the list. For me, though, my game of the year is still easily Witcher 2 for Xbox. I know it didn't technically come out. Well, it came out on Xbox this year, but it came out on PC earlier. But for me, like, that's still my highest rated game that I've done this year, and still think about it to this day.
Yeah. For me, again, it's just one of those things I was throwing out because everybody uses that term very liberally, right? I mean, it's easy for a really good game to come out in January and for us to say, well, that's the game of the year so far because the year's only a couple weeks old. But if we look at everything that's sort of come out between now and Borderlands 2, and there's not that much time left in the year. I mean, we've got 3.5 months left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say it's also going to be a little tough because the thing is games are going to be coming out more and more, and the next game that is going to be the one that I need to get pre-ordered is XCOM, Enemy Unknown, and I'm a big lover of the XCOM series. I'm very excited for that. However, I am just finding out now that a game that I loved is coming out on the 26th. I am just learning this, so this excitement is real. Castle Crashers is coming to Steam. Oh, that is good. Oh, that is really good.
How much is it listed for?
It doesn't have a price. It doesn't
really matter.
This is in like 5 days. There's no price. Oh, nah. It doesn't. There's no price. How can you do this? How can you do this to your fellow man? Where you just go, oh look, here's Castle Crashers. You're gonna have it.
Doesn't matter. You're still gonna push the buy button anyways.
There's no buy button. There's no buy button.
But when there is, it wouldn't even have to list a price. You're gonna do it anyways, so does it matter?
I'm gonna buy it off of my phone. I got the Steam app on my phone. That's a terrible thing to put in the hands of a person that buys games for the Steam sale, but it's gonna be a Steam app buy. Oh no.
All right. Well, sorry, I interrupted your talk about Borderlands 2, so please commence and continue to fanboy out.
No, it's great. It improves things on the first game. I find the writing is way better. I find it's way funnier. All the characters you know from the first game return, so it's not just like like they just go to the wayside. The new characters I'm really enjoying.
Yeah. These characters, they do have their special powers that are more geared towards their classes, I feel. Because the thing is that the sniper for Borderlands was really overpowered. It was super overpowered because of how the player was to use that character. And I admit it, I just abused that character, but it just made everything so much easier to get through. This one, I've played through the Zero character, and it's a little more difficult because your ability is you're able to go invisible, and you can create like a clone that the enemy thinks that is you, whereas you can just sneak around the enemy and then do melee attacks to the rear end of the enemy and do heavier damage. And that changes it up for me because that is something where you see the sniper and you're like, well, I've got to be far away. And if somebody gets close to me, then I'm going to melee them. But it adds an element where you're like, if the danger comes closer to you, then you invite it because your special ability is more close up than it is ranged. And I like that. That was a really interesting thing. At first, I was scared. I was like, where's my bird? I don't have a bird. This is scary now. Now I have really strong melee attacks. And I can use that for any purpose. I can get in close, I can attack, or if the enemy is too strong, I can use that to retreat to another point and then just set up shop and start sniping again.
That's kind of what I'm doing I'm playing Axton, and his ability is to put a turret down, and the turret kind of takes aggro from all the enemies, so I can either throw it down to do big damage in a big group, or I can throw it down to get the attention of everyone, sneak around, and then snipe from across or whatever I need to do. It opens up a lot more possibilities than I found in the first game.
I'm gonna be honest. I think that turret, because I've seen friends who have played through that class and they've used the turret. I think it was possibly because they both had that same class, but no, the other guy was a Zero. That's right, because they were doing linked Xboxes. one guy was a Zero, the other guy was the turret gentleman, and something about that turret just kind of seems a little more powerful than the other classes that I've seen.
But you can eventually make it if you spec right. You can make it where it'll launch a nuke. It's insane.
That's
you can
ridiculous.
put missile launchers on it, all different stuff. It's powerful. Like, I'm starting to put some really good points into it, and it's beginning more and more fun to use.
Now, have you played have you even touched into the class for the female character, the Siren?
No, I've only played my Axton. That's it.
Because that one seems really interesting because Zero's special ability is similar to the female character from the first Borderlands, where it was kind of you would go invisible, and then when you came out of invisibility, you would just hurt people with your kind of ranged attack around your center. So you could run into danger and then take away your superpower, and then it would damage everybody in a circle around you. So I'm kind of interested in seeing that. And Salvador's dual wield guns, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those guys online.
The one thing about the Zero that I'm pretty excited about is the ability of kind of changing your helmet. And if you played through Borderlands 1, you have like an alien kind of reptilian helmet, and that's my favorite. Right now I'm rocking a reptilian helmet with with kind of like a TMNT kind of color scheme where it's green, and then it looks like I have like a blue belt. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I'll tell you somebody that's not into Borderlands 2.
Who?
Now, it sounds like there is a month-and-a-half-old baby at Adam's apartment that's not into Borderlands 2 at all. She is Ava's battling colic right now, huh?
Yeah, she's not into much right yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the nice thing is that it's, for babies it'll pass over sooner than later. So hopefully hopefully she gets over it, and hopefully you guys can start getting some sleep again. That's for sure.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I remember what that was like.
Yeah. So, Beau, we've got about 20 minutes left in the show here, and I wanted to ask you about the new Slimline or Slim model or whatever it is, the PS3 model that they've announced a couple days ago. And you mentioned that you had some thoughts about it. So I admit I have not read a whole lot about it because my PS3 for the last 5 years has largely been just a Blu-ray player, so it's not something that I've shown a lot of interest in. But what is it? Is it really just one of those cases that they're trying to extend the life of the PS3, kind of like the Nintendo did with the Nintendo 2, or PlayStation 1 started doing over nearing the end with their DualShock systems, or is it actually something that is a big improvement on the last PS3 and might actually get a lot of previous buyers to buy into this?
So, I've been kind of looking into this, and it's interesting. As a gamer that has gone from NES to Super NES to go up the ladder of gaming consoles, it's interesting how the next generation is always projected. It's a very interesting thing to see what's coming up next with a gaming console. I remember the biggest thing when the Super NES went from the Super NES to the Nintendo 64. At the time, it was just like people had brought back alien technology. There was no way that human hands were able to make this many polygons in a game. It was crazy. With consoles the way they are now, it's very interesting because the Super Slim, which is going to be the new PlayStation 3, there is a PlayStation 3, which is as big as a briefcase, and then there is a Slim PS3, which is the size of a purse. And now there is the Super Slim PS3, which is highly reduced in size. It's half the size of the Slim, so it's like a quarter of the size of the briefcase PS3. It's got a 250 gig hard drive in it, and it's pretty interesting because looking into this, you kind of look at this and you went from the Xbox to the Xbox 360. It was a time of several years. I think it was about 5 years for the the 360 to go from I think it was 2000 when the original Xbox came out, and then the Xbox 360 came out in 2005, 2000.
It was it was the fall of 2005.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because the Xbox was a really powerful system at the time. To go from the Xbox to the Xbox 360 was a huge leap. Now, these consoles, it kind of puts your mind in a different kind of state of thinking, because old consoles would just jump up in processor speed, and the specs for it jumped huge numbers. Now with the 360 has, I think, a tri-core processor. It doesn't have a lot of RAM built into it. It's got a monster hard drive, as with most of the consoles that come out these days. And if I'm not mistaken, a fairly decent video card that also comes with it. And it's interesting because since it is only just a game console that runs exclusively just the game and the operating system of it, you can squeeze out a lot of visuals and a lot of power just out of the box. I mean, 3.2 gigahertz PowerPC tri-core processor. That's more powerful than my computer. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's interesting to see how the PS3 is now on its third version. But the PS3, if you look at it, because the first thing I thought in my mind is like, this is old. This isn't new. Like you've already slimmed a slim machine. But if you look at the hardware to it, it's very strong hardware. And so it's an interesting thing where you're like, well, the next generation of PlayStation 4, but the PlayStation 3 is a very powerful system at its core with its hardware. So it's them kind of still expanding on it without having to really try and continue on with the next the next version of it, because it is still really powerful. It's not considered old hardware. And I think that's what kind of makes it a weird, blowing my mind kind of aspect, because it's the same thing now packaged in a second package, because they had the original and they have the first and they have the second, but it's still the same powerful system. It's just a very small version of it. So it's just crazy interesting to me. Now the 360's hardware to that, it is not as slow, but it is a tri-core processor. I can only imagine the next generation it's going to do a quad-core or even a 6-core with its next version. But with the way that it's able to get a lot of its items out, it doesn't seem like it's going to be anytime soon. If you see how if the PlayStation 3 really wanted to move on to the next system, they really would have moved on to the next system. But hardware-wise, it's not even necessary. And I find that extremely fascinating. When I read that, I was like, well, this is interesting, because the Wii U has now come out. So the Wii U is going to be the next generation console, but that's going to be the first next generation console that's come out so far. The Wii itself wasn't super powerful, compared to the other hardware with the Xbox 360, with the PS3. It had a CPU that is not really spec'd that I can see very easily. It had a very basic amount of storage memory internally. It doesn't really go into higher specs that you would kind of see with some of the newer this generation's consoles. The Wii U has jumped up a lot of its processing, a lot of its RAM, a lot of its visuals to try and get onto that same level with the 360, with the PlayStation 3. Because the Wii needs to, because the Wii wasn't as powerful, and now they're putting out the next version of that, but they are making it a contender with visuals and with being a modern generation console. Unfortunately, it looks like they're a console too late, but that doesn't seem to be showing with its sales. Like it's flying off the shelves. But it's just a fascinating kind of, fascinating tactic on how they're kind of it feels like they're repackaging it, but if you look deep inside of it, it's not. It's just as powerful as the first one that came off of the shelves, but it's in a smaller form. It uses more intelligent design with its console, so it does feel like a tactic, but you have to look into it. You have to peel off the shell, and you have to look at the board and the hardware, and you have to see that this is still a very powerful system. So that's where it kind of the blows my mind aspect that I had to get over. You know, I had to really look into this and just be like, this is stupid. Why don't you just make the PlayStation 4, move on to the next generation of console, stop with this, you know, you first, no you first next generation console thing where the, you know, Microsoft and Sony are most definitely going to be clashing where, you know, got to wait for the next person's move. You want to see what they're putting on the plate. Okay, they put that on the plate. The processor is this. We need to make sure we got to try and beat that processor or come up with something equivalent. They can't have a more powerful thing here. You know, the 360 was able to do that. They got out there first. They said this is a powerful system. The PlayStation 3 said this is a beyond powerful system. You know, like that's kind of the aspect of how that kind of goes.
Right. Now, let me ask you a question. Now that you're talking about us moving on to the next generation of consoles or the next, you know, I guess the next jump forward for video game consoles in general, how much longer do you think the PS3 has to go? Because you're sitting here calling it a very powerful console, saying that it's still got a lot to give, but obviously evolution being evolution, eventually they're going to have to move on. But do you think that the PS3 has longer in its lifespan to hold out for PS4 than, say, Microsoft does with the Xbox 360?
It's a tough call because you know, like I said, it is strong in its system. But the thing is that they've done, from what I can see and feel, is they've done a lot with the consoles. When you look at the Xbox and how it was going from Xbox to 360, you kind of felt that they really pushed a lot as they out of the consoles they could. I had a genuine feeling like it's gone as far as it can go. It's time for the Xbox to sleep. The 360's coming out. This is a vastly superior system. Let's kind of move on to the next level. With the 360 and playing Borderlands 2 and seeing these games that are with the consoles, the graphics are still really incredible. The Last of Us, a lot of the visuals they've done real time, and if I'm not mistaken, they've done real time videos through the consoles themselves. I think they did one through a PS3. I think they did. I could be wrong, but it's still really beautiful. The liquid, the motion, everything's very fluid and beautiful. And it's weird to look at that and then try and say, when's the next one coming out? Because like the next one's gonna have like two 8-core processors running SLI video cards. You know, it's gonna be as powerful as a PC. You know, but the thing is, it's able to do a lot of the beautiful visuals and a lot of the deep gameplay and do a lot of that really well. Low loading times, that sort of thing. It's kind of weird to look at that and be like, well, give me the next one, because this is obviously not as beautiful as I would like it to be. I can see once they start releasing I think it was the Unreal 4 engine. They've been doing videos for that, and the Unreal 4 engine is spectacular. It's the demos that they've shown of it, of like, or no, was it the Unreal or was it the Crysis engine? It's one of them, but there was a waterfall that was also kind of a hydro dam kind of thing, but it had a guy that was built up in this military garb, and he was walking around. There's mist hitting the camera. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. When that starts to come out, and that's going to start to be the next line of games, that's where the consoles are probably going to hit their lines, because these visuals are going to need way stronger video cards than what they've got in them.
Yeah.
The processor in it is incredible. Those processors are really good processors, but there's going to be the bottleneck. You've got to find the bottleneck within it. A graphics card that only has a 550, hertz graphics card in it, that's where it probably may have its limit with the PS3, because they won't be able to do those next generation games with the next generation systems, where it won't be as powerful. It won't be powerful enough to be able to do all of the visual bells and whistles that will really make the game immersive and put that person in the middle of that forest, or in the middle of that hydro dam, or in the middle of that city where there's moss growing everywhere. It's going to be the next generation of those kind of engines that are going to probably drive those consoles to being like, okay, we can't do this. There are going to be things where they're going to say, okay, we can't do this. You're going to have to turn it down a notch. And when they say that, that's when they're going to have to start developing the next system that can do that and do more than what they have to do.
How far away are we from that at this point?
They've been doing the demos for some of the newer graphic engines for I think the Epic engine, and then for the Cryosys engine. I would say within 2 years I'd say 1 or 2 years is they're going to see it, and they're going to see something, and a game developer is going to give them a game, and the game developer is going to say something like, we couldn't do this. And it's going to be with a big game. And they're going to be like, well, that can't happen. They're probably going to release a kind of shortened down version, like what the console could do, but they're probably going to release the next version and try and have that out for the next generation of the console as kind of like, this one's able to do this, but this console plays it beautifully. They did that with a lot of the games when the Xbox and the Xbox 360 transfer started to happen, with like Burnout. I remember Burnout Revenge was way different. Burnout for the Xbox was okay. Then like the 360 version had the reflections, and it had all the really good graphical stuff. My friend had the Burnout Revenge for Xbox One. He was like, well, I got the 360 version. You can just have this because it's crap. So that's how I got Burnout Revenge, because my friend got a 360 and was like, well, you can have this piece of crap. I'm going to play something beautiful.
Yeah, I remember when NHL 2K6 had the same thing. And I had NHL 2K6 for the Xbox One, and I remember playing that and going, yeah, this is all right. And then I went over to a buddy's house, and he had NHL 2K6, and it was just amazing in comparison. So
yeah, it's the same game, but it's just it's not, and that's the thing, is that where that's the next generation console's gonna have to be developed. Obviously they're probably developing what the consoles are going to be able to do, going over price points. Most definitely PlayStation's going to be going over price points, because they can't they can't lose that money like they did with the PlayStation 3 when it first came out. But I'm sure that they've got ideas and specs, and they're going over that. But the PS3 is still able to do these games and able to do these strong visuals. But once the major studios are going to say, well, we couldn't get, this visual, so this is what it looks like here, but this is what it really should look like. And that's when somebody's going to go, that's beautiful. The other one's crap. We need to stop this.
So when does this slimline PS3 come out, and how much is it going to be? Have we found that out yet?
The price point for that is supposed to be about $296. That is $299. I'm sorry. That's going to be the 500 gig model for $299, and they're saying that's going to be on October 30th. Okay. There is an Assassin's Creed 3 bundle that's in the works. No price was announced for that. But it's looking at the PS3, being an original owner of the old briefcase PS3, this thing is unreal. Like, it's just unreal to look at it, because that is not the way that I could ever imagine a PS3. I could never see it crammed into that small of a box. It just seems impossible, and it looks way better. But ultimately, same console, same everything, but it's just in a smaller package, so it's not taking up a giant part of your table.
It's exactly what they did with remember the tiny PS1 before that ended?
Oh yeah. I love the PS1.
Yeah, that went from being the PS1 as in the number 1 to the PS1 as in ONE. And Yeah, it basically just looks like a tiny makeup case or something like that. I've got 2 PS2s at home, and I've got one of the the big fat original ones, and then I've got a Japanese slimline PS2, and they're kind of stacked one on top of the other, and it's just amazing seeing the size difference. And I have one of the briefcase PS3s as well, so I'm gonna definitely take a look at this slimline PS3 just to see again, because I can't imagine the PS3 looking like anything else either.
Yes, imagine the smallest one you have right now that's smaller.
Yeah.
You're like, no, you're lying. Stop making fun. This is you can't do that. It's smaller and it's ridiculous. But I mean, it shows that they're not willing to let this thing die out.
Well, for people that already have one, first question is why, and the second question is who cares?
So that's the thing, is that there are people that are going to be late adopters for the console. That there are going to be people that don't want to just kind of jump in and get the first one, because the first one, there's always a thing. First one's going to be the worst. Later on, they've got all the kinks worked out. It's going to run way smoother.
Somewhat, but they get rid of backwards compatibility. That's the only reason I have one of these briefcase PS3s, is because I went and got the last model before they got rid of backwards compatibility. So, I mean, you give and take, right? You're going to be losing some functionality with some of that stuff, and unfortunately, folks that have had PS1s and PS2s like myself didn't really have a choice. We had to go with those old systems.
Yep.
Well, guys, that is the G3 podcast for tonight. We are running very short on time, so we wanted to thank you all for listening in. Once again, whether you listen live or are tuning in later on through Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, TuneIn, or Stitcher, thank you so much. I'm Matt. Thanks to Marcel and Bob for coming by tonight. You can find them at Crazy TV Talk and crazytvtalk.com. You can find me on Twitter at Paleontology, or through the master account for the podcast at the G3 Podcast. Beau, you will always get plug time first and foremost, as you're aware. You're the first after the infamous night of Space Harrier Gate. So where can folks find you?
Infamous, indeed. You can find me Twitter, BEAUW Johnson. I've been trying to do more Twitch things, kind of playing through terrible video games, going through hellish games of Minesweeper. You can find me there. The Wily Panda, that's going to be the WILYPANDA.
All right, Adam, what's up?
You can find me Twitter, Xbox, PSN, Steam, something that's not even out yet, at Variation.
All right, and as always, you are the best friend of Shinman. We have a double shot of music for you tonight. I did tweet earlier that I did want to play Run With Us from the Canadian television cartoon The Raccoons, one of my favorite shows growing up, and also where a family live in Adam's beard nowadays. But as we were talking about Family Guy, I kind of got in the mood to hear Shibupi as well. So why don't we play Shibupi from Family Guy? We can all sing along to it, and then we'll close out with Lisa Lougheed's Run With Us from The Raccoons. So, on behalf of Beau, on behalf of Adam, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, and we'll catch you next week.
Blog Talk Radio, where millions of hosts and listeners gather.